live, and on it. So first off, we talked we talked last week. You and I met, and I remember I had said to you, I sort of thought I was like, okay, he's going to be a little bit Hollywood. That's okay, Hollywood guys are Hollywood, and he's going to be kind of a big shot. He's probably sipping like a cucumber iced water. So I talked to you, and you're like the coolest guy ever. Gave me the time of day, and we're just super cool. So another lesson in prejudging people usually isn't the best way to do it, and I appreciate you being so cool and taking the time to talk to me. So first and foremost, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to be on here. I'm from Queens, always going to be from Queens. I might live out on in the Hollywood area, but never going to go Hollywood. Yeah.
This is so random. Have you ever, when you say Queens and then Hollywood, the first thing I think of is Entourage. Have you ever?
Yeah, that was. I've never met any of those guys, but was a big fan of the show. Matt Damon, one of the guys I train, his agent is actually Patrick Weitzel, and that was Ari Emanuel's partner in WME. But I've never met any of those guys. Yeah.
Gotcha. You know what? Again, I keep saying this small world. I don't obviously I've never met Ari Emanuel, but I've met Rahm Emanuel actually twice. He's the mayor of Chicago, and in just two chance encounters where he was doing events, I happened to be there at the same time. Crazy. You want to know something crazy about Rahm? You shake his hand, and if you don't know this, he's missing one finger on his right hand. So when he shakes your hand, you feel it, and at first you're like, "What is that? Why is that
Yeah.
that way?"
I've never met any of those guys. The only one I've met was Patrick, but I was a huge fan of the show. I think Matt was on the show once.
Really?
Was he was on Entourage where he's trying. I believe he was trying to get. God, I forgot the main character's name, but he was trying to get him to donate money. It's actually a funny scene.
Oh, the Matt Damon, and he keeps chasing him around. He goes, "LeBron donated
Yeah, yeah,
100,000.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
you?" That show, I get heat for it. I always loved that show. Although being from Queens, do you think they did justice? Because none of them really have any accents except Turtle.
Yeah, they do. They're great actors. They did their part. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. No, I love that show. So real quick, and we literally just talked about this, and I'll bring it back up. We're small world. We've crossed paths, and I didn't realize it until a couple nights ago. I was just scrolling through your Instagram and just looking stuff up, and I noticed about 6 or 7 years ago at Gleason's gym, you were doing the choreography with the guys from Billions. So it was Dan Soder and I don't know the other guy's name.
Kelly Acoin,
Kelly Acoin.
dollar
Okay,
bill.
awesome.
Yeah.
So and I remember the funniest thing was I remember walking in and really just being excited to be at, it's not I don't know if it was the original Gleason's, but it still has all the charm and it's so cool. And then I saw these two guys fighting and it looked kind of real, but it was a bit over the top too. And I remember telling my wife, they kind of know how to box, but they just got to get themselves under control, not knowing it was all
Yeah,
choreographed,
yeah, yeah. It's funny because that scene, you wouldn't think it was choreographed because we're trying to get the atmosphere that it was that they were amateurs and they've never had any professional or any amateur fights before, and they were just like a typical tough man contest, but
Yeah.
not tough man. So it was insane, and on the first punch, Dan Soder actually broke Kelly Coyne's rib, and then Kelly had to do the rest of the filming with the busted rib. He just slipped with a punch, and they're swinging wild, so Kelly's ribs are just wide open, and Dan, I guess, hit him with a shot, and that was it.
Yeah, I gotta say, then you guys nailed it because that's exactly what it looked like. I'm like, these guys look like, it looks like it's their first time, but they're really going at it. It looked like when you get
Yeah.
two guys in the ring for the first time, they've never done it, they've never watched it, but they want to fight. But the crazy thing was, when we went there, we ran into Hector Roca, and it was my first time meeting him. God rest his soul. He's such a sweet, awesome guy, and the funniest thing was when they were done. They came up to Hector, and they shook his hands and. I was none the wiser. I mean, I knew he told us, "Hey, they're from the show Billions," but I'd never seen the show, so I was like, "Okay, cool." Found out later it was Dan Soder, who now I'm like, it's funny. In the last 3 years, became a huge fan, and I was like, if times were switched, that would have been cool to have said, what's up to him and to you.
Yeah, Hector's a great guy, man. We were trying to get him to be in the show that episode, and he didn't want to do it, which
Really?
I thought was nuts. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, come on, dude. They want you to get in. You're gonna get paid. You're gonna get residuals. And he's like, nah, I got stuff to do. And I'm just like, all right, that's Hector. He just he loves the boxing. Probably would rather be in the gym than be on a TV set all day.
One hundred
But
percent.
bringing out Hector, I brought some memorabilia out for you guys just in case we start talking and whatever. And one of the pieces I brought actually was from. Sorry, my dog is cannoli is wanting all the attention. I brought a piece from Hector. Let me just pull back a bit. And I literally just brought this back from Florida over the weekend from my storage unit. But this was Hector's, that Arturo Gatti team jacket that Hector gave. God, I think maybe 20, 30 years ago, I think it's been. He used to come down to South Florida and work out of my friend Trevor Cedar's boxing gym. At the time, it was called South Florida Boxing. So that's when I met Hector back then, and just stayed in touch with him every time I go to Gleason's.
That is so cool. I don't know when the last time you were there was, but they have they unfortunately since he passed away, they put up they have a whole entire like mosaic mural of him made out of it was like mosaics and then just a whole collage of pictures of him, and it's really beautiful. It's a really cool thing that they did for him. But God rest his soul. He was, I mean, we were strangers to him, and he took 2 hours of his day and just stopped, and just spent all the time telling us Arturo stories and Buddy stories,
Yeah.
all these great stories.
Yeah, man, Hector was great, man. Definitely a great ambassador for boxing. Everybody loved him, and Gleason's is definitely not going to be the same without him. He's like Norm from Cheers.
Yeah. So bringing that, first of all, thanks for bringing that out. That is so cool. So now I have to ask, as a fan, I don't really, I mean, I collect a little bit here and there, but what else do you have in that collection? Because that's crazy cool.
I have so much stuff, so I brought this out. So when Angelo passed away at the funeral, I gave the 10 count. So I brought that out. I'll just show you guys here. And so this is the bell we did when he passed away, and you'll see. I don't know if you could see that, but that's the bell that I rang out. I did the 10 count at Angelo Dundee's funeral. I brought out a bunch of. So Angelo had two main corner jackets. The one main one that he used for all the Ali Thriller Mill, that's at the International Boxing Hall of Fame, up there with Ed Brophy and those guys. And then this is the other main jacket that I have. That's his. He always would wear a white button down underneath all of his stuff. I think this one, there's even still some blood from cuts or whatever fight he was working. But I don't wear the undershirt for the fights, but when I was still training fighters, I still wore the jacket.
Wow.
So this one I actually won the WBC title with Melissa Hernandez up in Toronto. So I brought that. I give a couple more. I didn't bring everything because a lot of the stuff I still have stored away, but this is the corner jacket from Pinkland Thomas that Angelo had. And then there's a couple of other ones. I have this is, I'm not sure, this is just another corner jacket that he wore. I'm not sure this is MCB Stickman, so I'm not sure if that's a fighter, but this was one of his. I have one. He used to train Jimmy Lang. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
he was on the Contenders, I think. It's one of the Contenders guys.
Those are all in great shape too. My goodness.
Yeah, I try to keep everything. This is when he was training Lupe Suarez. A little wrinkled because they've been in my warehouse, and then you'll see the Angelo.
That's incredible. That is so cool.
Yeah. I just brought those out for now. That, like I said, the majority of my stuff is in my warehouse down in Florida.
Yeah. Wow. That's an incredible collection. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Whew. So, gosh, where do we even start? When we talked a little bit, and you had said, it's really funny, whenever I meet someone who's found a lot of success and really made a path for themselves, there's a common thing that I hear you and a lot of others in other fields too say, and it's, I just, I might paraphrase this a bit, but essentially, I'm really lucky to have, gotten to live this life. For me, the thing I teach my kids is Don't you ever rely on luck, right? It's hard work. It's hard work, perseverance, and
Yeah.
all those things. So I don't like using the word luck when I see someone who's successful because I know perhaps there was some luck, but clearly you had to work your ass off to get to where you've gotten to. But where does the journey? I've read about it a couple of times, but I gotta like really understand where did it all start?
Man, it's a hard one. I always say luck is when hard work and opportunity meet, um, because it is. Agree with you 100%, that it is hard work and all the stuff that you put into it. But I still believe in a little bit of luck because if you don't do certain things in life, like I look back to when I first met Angelo, I was 18 years old. At that time, I had moved around a lot, and I was living in Virginia, and then I moved back down to Florida with my mom. And one of my sister's friends was actually Razor Ruddock's trainer, a heavyweight back in the 90s. And on my license plate, it was my first car. I had a 1979 MGB, and on my license plate, I had second to none on the plate. And he comes over the house, and he's like, "What does that plate say?" And I didn't really realize what it said, but it kind of said 2 ton one.
Yeah,
So he's like, and I'm like, "No, it's second to none." He goes, "Why do you have that?" I'm like, "That's Michael Nunn's nickname is Michael Second to None." And he goes, "Are you a fan?" I'm like, "Yeah, obviously, it's on my plate." And he goes, "He trains 2 exits from your house with Angelo Dundee." And I'm like, "You're kidding me." I literally got in my car. I think I was 18 at the time and drove over. And Michael wasn't there. Um, and I met Angelo, and I was like, will you train me?" And he's like, "How many fights do you have?" I'm like, "Zero." And then he's like, "Also, you're just turning pro?" And I'm like, "No, I have zero amateur fights." He's like, "Son," he's like, "I don't train amateurs. I train professionals." He goes, "Why don't you do your amateur career and then come back and we'll talk?" So I was like, "Okay." Um, and then long story short, shortly after that, I had lost my dad when I was younger. And then my mom got sick right after that. So I was more or less trying to worry about paying bills than going to boxing training. So by the time I figured out what I wanted to do, I was a little bit older, and I was like, it's too old for me to be a fighter. And then Trevor opened up a boxing gym, and then I had known Angelo from seeing him over the years. I go back and visit, and then Angelo kind of started training fighters at Trevor's gym, South Florida Boxing. So that's how I kind of started working with Angelo, um, learning how to train fighters. Also, a guy named Louis Lagerman, who was an understudy of Angelo's before I came on board. And I learned a lot from Louis too. Louis was more of my mentor in the beginning, and then Louis left, and then Trevor had a few gyms, so I would go back and forth to the gyms to learn with both Lewis and Angelo. Angelo would train at the Pembroke Pines gym, and then Lewis would be down in South Beach. So I would kind of go to both gyms. So that's how it kind of got started, and I just hard work, man. Then we had a strength and conditioning coach, and he lived all the way up in Palm Beach. And it was hard for him to get down, so he wound up helping me learn how to do strength and conditioning, and then also sent me to strength and conditioning school in Boca. So that's how. And then I remember my best friend, who I call my brother Pierre, is like, "Dude," he goes, "You don't realize all of the stuff that you did to get where you're at, and you kind of just forget about it because you're not worrying." Like, I would literally drive from Miami all the way up to Boca, which is like hour and a half with traffic. Sit up there, take a course, hang out with Jeremy for an hour or two, and then go back to strength and conditioning, then head back down to Miami Beach to work with Lewis or Angelo in Pembroke Pines.
Now, what is it? What I mean, maybe it's harder to see it from the inside looking out than like the outside observing. But what do you think it was that made all of them want to invest the time and the resources into you to build you as a trainer?
I don't think they had a choice. I didn't give them a choice. I was like, "I'm not leaving until you guys teach me." And then like the Lewis really took me under his wing. We just got along great. And I think Angelo was more like, So I didn't. The first 2 years I worked with those guys, like I wasn't allowed to talk in the corner. I wasn't allowed to work any fights. I wasn't allowed to. I was just watch and observe. And if I had any questions, it would be either after the training was over or if they said, "Do you have any questions?" Like I was. So for 2 years I did nothing. I didn't get any paychecks. As Angelo calls it, I was his bucket boy. Um, and he's like, everybody has to be a bucket boy. He goes, I worked for 2 years for free. You're going to work 2 years for free. And I feel like in actuality, I should have been paying those two guys um, because it was like that was my college education was the 2 years in the gym. And Angelo always says that his college education was at Stillman's in New York. Um, and he's like, learn from whoever you can. So that's what I did. I worked under Lewis and those guys. And I'm like, I'm not, I had the blinders on. Like that's all I wanted to do was learn boxing. When I wasn't doing boxing with those guys, I was watching fight films, just trying to get as much knowledge as I could. So I think it was just my tenacity and just not giving up and showing up. I think is the most important thing. You know, Angelo says you're supposed to be there at 8 a.m. in the morning. You're there at 7:30. So that's where I kind of got that from. So I
Absolutely.
think it was just me, just showing that I wanted to do it, and that we'd go away for fights, or they'd go away for fights, and I would just keep going. Like I'd pay for my own flight. Lewis was always kind enough to let me, share a hotel room with him. And I think that every fight we would go, I would go into the commissioner's room and be ready to get my license. And at the last minute, he goes, "No, not now." And then finally, I think it was a fight in Vegas. When I see him, and I'm like, "Oh, he's going to say no again." And he's like, "Get the kid his license." And then I got worked the corner with Angelo for the first time, and Lewis with Attila Levine.
Wow. So I think there's also a certain level of humility where you have to be willing to take a lot of shit for a while. I think that's a tough thing for a lot of. I've seen a lot of the trainers I talk to say like you got to same exact thing. Start as a bucket boy. You're lucky enough just to be around a good trainer and pay your dues, learn from the outside, and take your time. You always got to take your time. And I think that's a tough thing for a lot of folks to say like, hey, you're gonna eat. Sorry for cursing, but you're gonna eat a lot of shit until you get your opportunity. But you have to be very persistent and also have humility and respect that what you're getting out of this. And with that, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's if you really love something and you want it, I don't even think the word humility is even in your vocabulary because you don't see it as humility. You just see it as like, okay, this is what I have to do. There's a reason why I'm doing it. I may not understand right now, but it's all going to come clear in the end. And that's what it was for me. Is I didn't care. Like I remember before every fight, um, bucket boy has to go find the ice, has to go find the bucket, go get the water bottles and fill them up and do all that stuff. And I had no issues with it. Like even um, in a few minutes, I'll go have a corner jacket and it says bucket boy on it. And I remember I can't remember where the fight was, but I was running to go get like the ice and the water and all that stuff, and I run full speed into Dan Goosen, and I'm like, oh, and like there's water everywhere, and I'm like, I'm sorry, and then I go to run, and then he grabs me and he pulls me back, and he goes, and I'm like, oh, he's really gonna let me have it, and he goes, what does that say on your corner jacket? And then he looks, he goes, I thought so. And he goes, bucket boy. He goes, I fucking love that. He goes, great job. He goes, go do your shit, man. And I was
Yeah,
like, yeah,
that's
yeah. So that was like such a great moment. It was so funny, man, because I thought I was going to get yelled at. I mean, when I say ram full speed into him, I
just
mean, it
nailed him.
was full speed. I didn't even see him. And he was laughing. He says, great job. Go do your stuff. So like, I don't really see it as humility. I just see it as, if you love something, you're going to do what you want it to do. Like the amount of birthdays, holidays that I missed, like I didn't even care. I was just like, I'm doing this, and that's it.
So you had to have known, I mean, what that opportunity was while you were in it to get to work with Angelo Dundee. It seemed like you were clearly aware of like, wow, not many people get this kind of a shot. This is incredible, and you took full advantage of that.
Yeah, that and like you're working under Angelo, then you're working under his right hand guy. So it's just like Louis Lagerman, and at that time, and it was just I was like a little kid in the candy store. Like my friends like, oh, Colin, you wouldn't go out. And I was young. I was in my early 20s, late 20s through the whole thing. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to go out and drink. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to go to the gym. I want to be like these guys. And I just, like I said, like I know you're saying like, it's like I just felt lucky to, to have that drive and to be with those guys. Who knows? I might have trained under another trainer that, I didn't like, and I might not have had the drive to do that. I think Angelo and Lewis made it easy for me to. I mean, Angelo's such a likable guy. Lewis at the time was a likable guy, and it just made it fun. And I think when you know how to make things fun, and you got to know when to be serious and when not to be serious. And if you're serious all the time, I think anybody is going to get, like, oh, this is just not for me.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so crazy. I look at the coaching trees and I try to follow them to see, who's got the. Maybe this sounds corny as I say it, but to me it's always fascinating because there's sort of like a coaching tree that comes down, similar to like in the NFL, you have coaching trees. These guys are under Andy Reid and they go to be head coaches.
Yeah.
You look, yeah, and so I've looked at a lot of the coaching trees, and when I look at Angelo Dundee, you're by far the closest to him, and I think that's it's a very special thing. I think it's also, I don't know if you've ever seen it like this, but it's sort of a big responsibility for his legacy to maintain, for it to carry on and to tell
Yeah,
his
it's
story.
massive. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I think it was a Sergio Martinez fight against uh, God, Julio Cesar Chavez's kid, and the guy said, Martinez's coach said, the son of all giants are dwarves, and like you're gonna have big shoes to fill. And I remember I'm like, oh man, I'm like the amount of pressure I felt in the beginning, and then when Angelo passed away, his son Jimmy, who's a great guy, comes up to me and he hands me. He goes, "Here's Dad's shoes." He goes, "I know they're a big pair of shoes to fill. This is gonna give you a head start." And I think about that all the time. Like, man, like those are a big pair of shoes to fill. Like you think about the amount of fighters that Angelo trained, um, even the ones that didn't make to be a world champion. I mean, they were all legends. I mean, you go back, Angelo's first champion, Carmen Basilio. I mean, he had a fighter that beat Sugar Ray Robinson. Um, you have Louis Rodriguez, who beat Emil Griffith. And I'm just like, how am I going to get to that and have a Muhammad Ali and then have a George Foreman and then a Pinklin Thomas and Sugar Ramos and Ralph Dupas and all those guys, and it's tough. I think I kind of, with my boxing thing, I love boxing, but Angelo told me things are changing. He goes, when he was training fighters, he was having fights 2 or 3 times a week, and now these fighters are fighting 2 or 3 times a year, and so I think it's just something different. And my career, I think I did well. I still love boxing, but it kind of flipped into the movies, which I didn't even expect to go that route. But I love it. I just got done filming Chrissy with Sid Sweeney. I was a boxing consultant on that, and got to train her. And Angelo loved Christy Martin, so to be part of that. And when Christy met me, and she's like, I'm so, she was so happy when she found out that it was me training Sid. And she's like, I loved Angelo. And she literally sent me a text message a couple of days ago. She was going through her old stuff, and I'll pull it up real quick. And she found a rap from her third fight that Angelo gave her. And she won her third fight, and then so she sent it to me. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it with this, but
No, that's good. Right there on the corner is perfect.
yeah, yeah. So it's great, man. I love it, and it's you got. I mean, I think Freddie Roach has done a good job with working under Eddie Futch for so long. He's definitely, I think, Angelo always said that Eddie Futch was the best trainer hands down, but Freddie's definitely up there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, they're all great. They all put their own touches on it too. Like I'd
Yeah.
imagine, you probably learned a ton from Angelo, but you're going to do things with your own fingerprint on it, right? Like Freddie, same thing. I literally just interviewed Marvin Somodio, who since 2012 has been same deal. Bucket boy, worked under Freddie, just sat and watched and observed for all these years, and now he's starting to sort of blossom. But he's nothing like Fred. I mean, they're all so different. So like, interesting question. How do you when you started training, your own fighters? How did you differentiate from Angelo? What were the ways where you sort of delivered or did things differently?
The one thing I did do different than Angelo, Angelo never. A lot of people don't know this, but Angelo never used mitts on any of his fighters. He didn't believe in holding mitts. Louis Lagerman taught me how to hold mitts, so I think that's one thing that I do different. And then the other thing is, and then I have a funny story about that with Angelo. I'll tell after this. And then the other thing is I do believe in using weights for strength and conditioning. Angelo didn't believe in weights. He just believed, he had Angelo. A lot of people don't know this, but Angelo's partner in training fighters was a Cuban guy named Luis Soria, who Angelo always says, that guy was just as important as I was in training the fighters because he did all of the conditioning and all of the, use medicine balls and all sorts of other stuff. But I think probably the weights, holding pads. And I think that's, Angelo had always told me too is you got to learn from other trainers. You can't just learn from me. He goes, that's how I became good was when he was, the bucket boy and at Stillman's gym. He had he learned under Chicky Ferrara, Joe Lewis's trainer, Marciano's trainer, all these great trainers taught him. So I try to also, I used to go around to different gyms and watch other guys work. And Angelo always said there's two things to learn is what to do and what not to do. So I think in that aspect, I think those are really the only two main things that I think that we saw things that were different. But in the end, Angelo started to believe in strength and conditioning because I don't think anybody ever explained it to him. And Jeremy Fedoruk, the guy that taught me, is great. He understands it. I think that a lot of the people now a lot of the fighters now and trainers, some of them are depending too much on the strength and conditioning aspect of it. And I think the skill level has gone down. I think the skill level back when Angelo was training fighters, even in the 80s and 90s, were a little bit better than what's going on now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of trainers, and some of them, they all have different perspectives. That's what's so cool and interesting is that everyone has a different take on it. There are some guys who are adamantly against strength and conditioning because they're so tied to what has worked for so many years, which I can understand. If you've trained champions by having them run in the morning and doing some ab workout or whatever the whole thing is that they've always done, why change it? But but obviously sports science has come a long way, and you have to imagine there's certainly, just like in every other sport, a place for it. Players in basketball are more explosive, in football they're more explosive. It's not a genetic thing, I don't think. It'd have to be how they're training. So all that to say, where do you think it fits into boxing, and where does it sort of, I guess, overstep or take away from skill?
I think that they're spending too much time in lifting weights, and they're taking away from the learning of certain things in the ring and spending more time in the ring. And then if you don't have the right strength and conditioning coach, it could slow you down a lot, really slow you down. And like I said, it's just taking time out of the boxing ring. Like if you look at Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, that guy was just shredded from head to toe. He didn't use weights back then. I mean, their weights was a medicine ball.
Yep.
I think that some stuff, I believe in heavy leg work because if you don't have legs in boxing, but the upper body, I tend to not too much for that. I think that's where you start to slow down. The core, you just need sit-ups and a medicine ball. But I think with me, I'd love to use the weights just for the legs because, like I said, man, if you don't have legs in boxing, you're finished. But the story I was going to go on to, just going to go back a little bit, is with the mitts. Angelo had moved to Tampa after his wife got sick, and Jimmy and Terry wanted them to be closer to them in Tampa. So I had some fighters in Tampa that I was working with, and I knew Angelo did not like mitts. Like he didn't even want to see them in the gym. So I go in and I'm training the fighters, and I got my mitts out, and they're like, "Hey, Angelo's on the way." So I'm like, "Uh-oh." So I grab my mitts and I go throw them in the trunk of my car. So Angelo comes in, and we're working, and he goes, "Oh, we need to fix his right hand." He goes, "Do me a favor." He goes, "Go in your trunk and go get those mitts out of there."
It's not you.
And I was like, "Oh man," I'm like, "Who told you?" He goes, "I know everything." He goes, "It's okay to use them every now and then, but not all the time."
Yeah,
So that was a story. I still don't know who told on me that I threw the mitts in the trunk, but it was pretty funny.
that's so funny. Oh my goodness. Um, I don't yeah, a lot of there are some really old school guys who like they don't like the mitts. Every time I've ever asked anyone, well, why don't you like the mitts? The guys nowadays will be like, well, because it's all for show, and they're talking about the guys who it's like, ba, 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 it's all, you're not learning anything.
Yeah.
It's choreographed, but certainly there has to be a place for it if you want to work on a specific combination. It's hard to make a guy do it in sparring. He could do it on the bag, I suppose, but if you want to work angles and stuff, you have to use pads. You just have to.
Well, that's what Angelo believed in too. Is so I'm with Angelo on this. It's great to do mitts and to teach them, like maybe to fix a right hand and to do certain combinations and move around. But there's nothing like that heavy bag, man. You get or the medium bag, like it's swinging back and forth. You're moving. You're constantly moving because it could get more like choreography in there if you do the mitts. Like, if you look at the majority, or at least the stuff that I see on Floyd Mayweather Sr. is the same combinations where he throws the jab at the end,
Yeah.
and like about 10 times, and everybody loves that. And not saying it doesn't work, but it's more. I think it's more to teach you, to correct you on things. But when you start doing tons of rounds of mitts and you're running all over the ring, I don't. Angelo believed in shadow boxing and light sparring. He'd do light sparring like 3 days a week for 3 rounds, and it wasn't what you weren't going in there to get killed. That's another thing. Is a lot of these fighters are going in there, and what Angelo would say is they're going to lose it in the gym, and you spar too hard, it's not good either. But I think bag work, shadow boxing, you throw some mitt work in there. Lewis used to love to do mitts. That was one thing I kind of disagreed with. That was, I think too much of anything is not too good.
Absolutely. What are some of the things you've noticed at work that are maybe atypical? And what I mean by that is there are, fighters today are doing some crazy stuff. And someone pointed out, they're even doing yoga now. And I think about it, it's like, yeah, of course, you got to take care of your body. You're going to be sore and aching after, an 8-week training camp. But Lomachenko does a lot of crazy stuff. He'll juggle and he'll do like the reaction lights and hold his breath underwater. What are your thoughts on those things, or are there any things like that you've utilized, to help with training?
I like the reaction lights. Any type of reaction drills I think are great. I'm trying to think of what else. Reaction lights. I don't like. I kind of feel like some of these trainers are just doing stuff to make it look cool for Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, they're throwing chains on people and lifting up car tires, doing pull-ups and all of that stuff. And like, that stuff I don't believe in. Dancing is something I think all the old school fighters used to do. I mean, Sugar Ray Robinson literally quit boxing and went on a dancing tour in France for all those years. And then when he got bored, then he went over and just beat all of the fighters up in Europe. I mean, Lomachenko did the whole, his dad pulled him out of the amateur boxing and to learn, the Ukrainian river dance. Anything to do yoga, I think, getting you stretched out, because that's what Louis Soria used to do. Is he used to literally stretch you out and do core work with the medicine ball and all sorts of other stuff after Angelo got done with his stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Good stuff. So in working with, and I want to give so much, like as much praise as possible for Angelo Dundee. And like one thing, when Bobby Benton, his dad was a coach in Texas, and he really had a chance to see a lot of the great trainers, including Angelo. And he had said that Angelo would come like fight week, like the week of the fight, or he didn't say that. I knew that, and I asked him about it. Was what it was. He didn't bring it up. And I said, I was like, yeah, I was like, how do you feel about trainers like Angelo who would come, the week of a fight when like other trainers have been working the whole time? Does that maintain consistency? And he didn't even like think twice. He goes, no. He goes, if Angelo Dundee comes to your team on the day of the fight, he goes, you take him because his experience and wisdom can't be matched. He will see things within a round that a lot of trainers won't catch. Training a whole training camp and
Yeah,
watching tons of film.
yeah, he was a master at that. That's why like I started watching all those tapes because I have friends that'll watch fights with me and I pick things out within a round or two. And I think that's because Angelo always pushed you have to watch the tapes. And funny stories, I never realized that, and I don't know if you realized it, but Angelo worked the corner when Tyson fought Trevor Berbick.
Did not know that.
Yeah, so they brought him in just to work the corner for that fight because they wanted Angelo to talk. Because a lot of the fighters would say Angelo could talk you into winning a fight that you shouldn't have. And I remember Angelo telling me, and I had talked to Tyson about it, and he said he never knew it. Angelo goes, I said, what happened with Trevor Berbick? And he goes, man, they brought me in to talk him in, wanted me to talk him into winning the fight. He goes, man, Jesus couldn't have talked him into winning the fight that night against Tyson. So I know Angelo did that, a few times. They would just bring him into because Angelo also too, as a lot of people don't realize this, that Angelo was a great cut man. Um, and he used to say that he learned it all from Carmen Basilio because Carmen would start bleeding during the press conference.
Yeah, that's one of
So
my
yeah,
favorite.
so
Carmen versus Sugar Ray. I think it was at middleweight. Sugar, or he came up
yeah,
from welterweight to middleweight. It's one of my favorite fights of all time. One of my favorite fights. I
yeah.
love him.
So I think by Angelo coming into the fight, I mean he didn't do like it would just, you know, he would when he would train Ray. I know he wouldn't come in the last week, but he would come in like so. Say it was an 8 week camp, Angelo would come in. You know, he wouldn't come in the first week because he's like, okay, the first week he's just gonna be getting himself back into it. I'm gonna come for the important stuff because back then too, a lot of people don't realize Angelo had a ton of fighters. The trainers back then had, I think, more fighters and were extremely busy with their camps. Like it's like I said, it's not like it was back then. Like now, like I said, the fighters. I mean, even I think I'm a huge fan of him. David Benavidez was saying that he thinks that he's going to have a very long career because he only fights once or twice a year. So and he's not taking that much damage. So yeah, when you have somebody like Angelo coming in, a Freddie Roach coming in. Um, all those guys need is a week to see what's going on, and they know.
And I think there was a story, not to get into all of it, but there's a story with Angelo where someone had gotten very jealous because they had done all the work, and he comes in. I could see that being really hard on the trainers who are in the camp. I could easily see like jealousy or animosity towards a trainer coming in the last week. That's got to be like a big ego shot for a lot of guys, to see to do the
Yeah,
work and then
I
this
would
guy
be.
comes in.
Yeah, I definitely would be upset. But I think that's something that maybe that trainer has got to look at himself in the mirror and say, well, why are they bringing him in? Instead of getting mad at Angelo, they should kind of look at themselves and say, okay, let me learn from Angelo. Let me talk to Angelo. Let me see what did I do wrong that they're bringing Angelo in. And then that's a conversation that trainer should be talking with the fighter and to the manager of why are you guys doing this and what can I do to improve myself to not have this happen again.
Right on. Accountability, taking it onto yourself,
Yeah,
and
and yeah, and I think a lot of that's kind of gone in the sport is the accountability um, from the trainers, the fighters. It goes all the way to the top promoters, managers.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I would agree. I would totally agree. Also, there's no shame in having Angelo Dundee come in or Freddie Roach or I mean, there's certain guys where when they come in, it's an opportunity in and of itself to have a chance to work next to a guy like that. You could take that
a
on as an
hundred
opportunity.
100%. Like that's what I would do is say, okay, I would do the two things, but like what I just said is, okay, what am I doing wrong, and two, what could I learn? And then I would become best friends with Angelo or Freddie or one of those guys and start maybe watching more of their stuff, like maybe even the little clips of like in between the rounds of what they're saying. And there's a lot of fighters that fall apart in that one. A lot of trainers that fall apart in that minute, and they need the help. They fall apart under the pressure.
Absolutely. What were the things when you started training under him, and I'm sure over all that time, what were some of the things that you saw Angelo do or say where you go, oh, that's it, that's what really makes him special, or the aha moment where you learn something from him where you go, oh wow, that's the magic right there.
So he taught me. So this is the beauty. He would only yell when it was necessary. So like you have some trainers that will scream during training, getting up to the fight, and they're just all they do is yell, 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 yell. And then when you need a sense of urgency and you're yelling, the fighter doesn't know that there's a sense of urgency. So Angelo would just keep this calm voice like you and I are talking, and then if he would need you to do something, then he would yell and curse, and now you're like, oh shit, what am I doing wrong? And he's serious, like if he's upset with me, I'm doing something wrong and I need to fix it. That was one of the big things. Another thing is no matter what happens in the fight, Angelo would always give the fighter at least 10 or 15 seconds to catch his breath instead of just pumping water down him and all of that stuff. He was very, very calm in the corner until he needed to be urgent. And I think that was the massive thing about working the corner. Another thing that he would do, I think that a lot of fighters or a lot of trainers don't do, is he would go down to the arena and then he would like, okay, I want, and it's little stuff, and I believe the little stuff adds up. He would walk the ring and look for divots or stuff wrong with the mat. He would, check the ropes, and then he would try to get the locker room the closest to the ring because he felt that his fighter would use less steps going to the ring. He would try to tell the fighters, listen, if the fight, when you hear the pounding, like you have like either 10 or 30 seconds, try to make the fight end in our corner so you don't have to walk all the way back to the corner. So it was just little things of like, okay, like when we hear this as a trainer, kind of get up out of your seat and get ready to fly up those steps and get that stool down for the fighter. Everything was just about how much more time we could get in that corner, because like Angelo broke it down. He goes, he says you have a minute rest, but if you start from your fighters in the other corner, you're wasting about 5 or 6 seconds. If you're lazy going up the steps and you don't get kind of a head start, you're going to lose time. So now you're down to about 40 seconds. So if you need to work a cut or give like advice, another thing is advice, don't give more than 2 or 3 things to the fighter. And you should be the only one talking. So we weren't allowed to talk in the corner with Angelo because you can't have the fighter get 3 different sets of instructions. So if we had anything to say or we saw something, Angelo would say, do you guys see anything? And then he would go and tell us. He would tell the fighter what, if in case Angelo missed something and I picked it up or Lewis would pick it up, he would go and tell the fighter.
I think, to me that makes...
And just have unity in the corner.
To me that makes a ton of sense.
There was, I can't remember the name. Yeah, there was one guy that Freddie, a strength and conditioning guy that Freddie wound up getting rid of. I can't remember his name, but he was working with Freddie, training the fighters, and then Freddie, he kept starting to talk when Freddie was talking and getting involved. And I was at the Hall of Fame when Freddie got inducted, and we were waiting to go into the cars, and I was there with it was me, Freddie, and Marie. I think he married Marie now. And Marie goes, ask Matt. And I'm like, ask what? And they were talking about, I think, is it Reynosa? Is that the guy that used to work with, I don't want to say the wrong name.
Eddie Reynosa?
Did he work with, was he a strength guy? I can't.
Don't think, no, Eddie Reynoso is the trainer for Canelo. He's right now he's doing...
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's probably not him, but it was another trainer. Whenever the year Freddie got inducted, we'll look it up after. And I said, no, man. I'm like, Angelo would say one person in the corner, you're causing massive confusion. So, and then they wound up getting rid of him right after that.
Wow. I think, yeah. Also, if you think about it, it sounds, I never thought about this before, but it sounds like this sort of cadence and pace of the fight is dictated by how you're talking to the fighter. Like
Yeah, yeah,
you think about like you're blowing it, kid. It's okay. Let your hands go
yeah,
now.
yeah,
This is it. It's time to turn it up to 10 and finish. That's the pace. But it
yeah,
sounds like him staying
yeah.
calm
And
and
you got
picking it up. Oh, go on.
yeah, and getting to know the fighter, what makes them tick. Like some fighters like to get yelled at more often than others. Some fighters don't like it. There was a store, I think it was he was training Willie Pastrana, and Willie wanted to buy a house, and I can't remember who he was fighting. But as the rounds are going on, Willie's kind of getting his ass handed to him, and Angelo comes out like in the sixth round and says, "Hey man, you're losing the door. You're gonna lose the door on that new house you want. Like you gotta move your head more." And then the next round comes, and it goes, "There go the windows." And then the next round comes in, it's like, there goes the roof, and then there goes your foundation. Your house is gone. Forget it. We need a knockout. And Pastrana comes out, knocks the guy out, and he comes Angelo after. And he goes, "Nobody's taking my fucking house from me."
Yeah.
So it's just
Hell
getting to
yeah.
know the fighter is, I think, really important, and what to say and what not to say.
Hell, you have to have so much confidence to talk to a fighter like that too, and really connect and cut through. Because a lot of, I feel like some fighters. I shouldn't say a lot of fighters. I don't want to say it like that, but there's some fighters where when you try to get creative and do stuff like that, they could be like, get out of here. Like I know what I'm doing, or. But if you can really carry yourself and they believe in you and you have that confidence, you can deliver it like that and get them going.
Yeah, once a fighter knows you're lying, like you can't lie because they know. The fighters know if you're lying to them. Like, one thing I like about Buddy McGirt is if he feels like, okay, there's no way you're gonna win this fight and you're gonna take too much punishment, he'll warn the fighter, and then eventually he'll stop it. Um, some fighters get pissed off, but I agree with the stoppages that Buddy has done. He's another great trainer. I got to work with. We were working. I was training David Estrada, and then we were driving up to Palm Beach, and I think he was training Paulie Malignaggi at the time, and I got to watch him work with Paulie, and it was great.
Yeah, Buddy's as real as they come too. He doesn't have the
Yeah,
patience to even lie if he wanted to. I don't think.
yeah,
Um, One thing that's interesting, and maybe it's the strength and conditioning side, but I before we started, I noticed on social media you'd put up a lot of pictures of jerseys of players, football players, NFL players you've trained with, and I wonder like
yeah,
is a lot of
yeah.
that boxing training that you're doing with them, or is it strength and conditioning, or like what
It,
is that?
no, it's all boxing, man. They have, they're look, man. I'm a great strength and conditioning coach. A lot of people don't know that I work with fighters, but they're on a whole different level. Like these guys are pushing weights around like cars.
Yeah,
So mine was more in the cardio end of it. They wanted cardio and they wanted hand-eye coordination. They wanted to be able to see things. And when I first started working with the fighters, it was mainly running backs and receivers. Like I had Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, a bunch of tight ends, Anthony Fasano, Charles Clay, Deion Sims, and they just wanted the cardio and they wanted the hand-eye coordination. And with the boxing, they always said that they never got tired in the games anymore. Like
yeah,
it was the cardio that we would do. Like we're doing, like, and these guys would train. We trained for like 2 hours, sometimes three, and they were just like they couldn't believe that how great their cardio. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis would tell me all the time. He's like, man, he goes, I can see the holes opening up so quickly now, whereas before he didn't get a chance to see it. And when you look at the tight ends, running backs, receivers, we'd heavily work on their jabs for the stiff arms.
yeah,
Um, and then, yeah, the linemen wanted, I didn't realize that you're allowed to punch when you're blocking.
yeah,
So these guys wanted to learn how to punch quick.
yeah.
So we work on a lot of straight rights and more power shots. It was crazy how it was with different players. We work on different things. I worked with Teddy Bridgewater. He wanted the footwork along, with the running backs and receivers. Same thing, linemen. They just wanted to learn the boxing, the skill of it. And like I can't remember who they were like. Oh, we just want him to do this, and I'm just like, no. I'm going to teach him to fight like a real fighter because otherwise it's not going to be beneficial.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That something popped in my head. there was a Bears player. I'm more privy, obviously being from Chicago, but his name was Peanut Tillman.
Yeah.
He did a thing called the Peanut Punch, and like really changed. He was a cornerback, and he changed the whole position because he would take these weird angles on guys that were the ball carrier, and he would either uppercut it or he would punch down, or he'd always, when he went for the tackle, he'd punt. He wouldn't lead with a wrap. He'd lead with a punch, and he forced something like 43 fumbles. Like, it was outrageous. And he said he spent hours practicing punching. I totally forgot about that, but that's something that a lot of defensive players, I mean, it changes.
Oh, they're doing it now, like left and right.
Yeah.
It's insane how many forced fumbles this year were on punching.
Yep.
And I'm sure that those guys did some sort of boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, obviously now, your career has changed. It was boxing. You had explained it. Angelo explained it pretty well. Boxing's always sort of getting. Still to this day, I sort of feel like it's always getting put into a smaller corner and a smaller corner. It's still here. It's still alive. It's just there aren't as many fights and there aren't as many fighters. It's just the stats, And so he gave you the advice, hey, maybe go into something else. How on earth do you go to where you are now? Like, that's another huge career jump.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, because like I said, it wasn't even in my wheelhouse. Matt Damon kind of walked into the gym. He was living in Miami at the time, and I had no idea. He was so quiet and keeps to himself. Like, I knew everybody in Miami Beach. I worked in the nightclub circuit when I was younger, and I never knew he was even living in South Beach at the time. We were working at Trevor's Gym, South Florida Boxing, and he was supposed to train with me originally, and then I don't know what happened, but he didn't come in for like a month or two. And then he comes in and he starts working with Lewis because I think it was his wife's hairdresser was taking one of Lewis's classes, and he winds up training with Lewis. And then at that time I had taken over the strength and conditioning with the fighters, and Matty needed to lose weight for the movie Invictus, the rugby movie.
Yeah.
And he's training with Lewis, shedding the weight from when he did this movie called The Informant. And then he saw Attila, the heavyweight that we had, and he goes, "Who gets Attila like that?" And Lewis goes, "Oh, Matt does." And then we had the whole New York Boston fighting going on with who's better, and baseball and football and basketball. And he's like, "Hey man, do you want to do strength and conditioning?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm in." And then a few weeks after that, Lewis left South Florida Boxing, went to another gym, and it was Matt had just had his second daughter, Gia, and he's like, "I can't. That gym is too far." He goes, "Do you want to do both?" So I was like, "Yeah." So I just started doing both, and him and I just developed a great friendship. Like, he's like my brother.
Wow.
So that's how it kind of led into that. And then I did Adjustment Bureau after that, and then he wound up moving to New York. I stayed where I was at, and then we've just always been friends, and that's how that got. And then I wound up doing the Billions thing, and then from Billions I got to do a video with Halsey, the singer, and then I kind of helped when we did Jason Bourne. I was kind of like a consultant for the bare knuckle brawl thing, and that's when I started saying, "Oh, this is pretty fun if I could get on some movies doing fight scenes." And then that after that is when the Halsey video happened, and then Billions, and then eventually the Christie movie. And working with stunt people. So that's how that kind of happened. And it wasn't like I wasn't looking for it. I just started enjoying it. And then, like, I had a couple of fighters that were, and I don't care, I'm going to say it, is like I worked with Manuel Char, the heavyweight, and I trained with him the whole camp. And then he paid me once. And then for the next 6 weeks, he kept promising me he's going to pay me. And then he never paid me. And I was kind of over it. Not getting paid from fighters or promoters or managers, and it's always one excuse after the next. And even Angelo saw it. He's like, "Stick with Matt and doing this." He goes, "Boxing's changing."
Yeah.
So I kind of got out of it, and I miss boxing. I love training fighters, like working with Sydney, and there's Bridget Riley, who was world champion, the Hall of Famer. She was on the movie, and working with them, and I was like, man, I really miss training fighters. But every time I want to get back into training fighters, I just hear of another trainer that got screwed over, and so that's the part that I don't like. I don't like the inactivity. Um, if it was, I think if it was times like when Angelo, because I used to tell Angelo that all the time. I wish I was your age. I wish I could have worked with you in the heyday
Yeah.
and get to see all these. I mean, Angelo was so old. I remember we were talking. I'm like, "How did you meet your wife?" Oh, I had the undercard at a Joe Louis fight. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, gee, I'm just like, my God. I'm like, so it's. I think that's how that got switched into that, and it's you get to see so many different things. Like when you're doing the boxing matches, you're usually in town for maybe a week, and you're kind of babysitting the fighter and trying to keep them calm and busy. And when you're going on these movies, it's great, man. You're living in different parts of the world, and I think I kind of fell in love with that. So I think that's how that got switched, and just like I said, lucky. Like if Matt didn't come in to work out at the gym, I'd probably be still just working with fighters. Who knows?
Lucky, but like you said, hard work meets opportunity, right? So he had to see the
Yeah,
success that you had had and said, who trains them? Who's training him?
yeah,
It was the evidence was already there because you had done the work.
yeah, yeah,
Um, no, I think that's cool though. I think it's cool to be able to live different lives. You can finish a
yeah.
chapter of your life and say, or not finish it, but maybe step away from it and say, hey, let's try something completely different. I respect people who
Yeah,
do the same thing a
also
hundred
too.
years, but
Yeah, and Angelo thought it was cool because Angelo had done worked with trained Russell Crowe for the Cinderella Man.
yeah,
So he saw me working with Matt, and he's like, "Oh, this is great." He's like, "Stick with him. He's a good guy, and he is. He's great, man." Like I said, I miss training with fighters. I just don't miss all of the bullshit um, that went on with it.
is it possible that you could do both and do boxing maybe in a more limited capacity?
That's what I've been thinking. I'm like, maybe I just now I'm at the point in life. I think when you get good at anything, you can get more selective of who you want to work with. And back then, it was just like, okay, I just want to work with a fighter because I want to learn, even if you're not getting a weekly salary or getting paid. And it just got to the point where like you got guys like Manuel Char that just don't pay, and um, it's just upsetting. Like you're at that level, you're fighting a big fight, and you're not going to take care of your trainer. Um, so now, like if I do start working with fighters again, and Angelo was bad at this too, is no more handshake deals. It's going to be written in paper, and that was a problem that I had too. Is I was kind of like old school Angelo. I took everybody for their word, and unfortunately, a lot of people now aren't old school, and they just don't keep their word. So if I did do it, it would definitely everything's going to be handwritten. What I'm supposed to get, you know. I think that's if I did that, or if I come in as maybe I would even like to come in as an assistant or cut man, and just start working corners again. I think would be
Yeah.
fun, and then maybe I'll
Oh, shoot, can you hear me?
fall back in love with it. Oh, hello, hello, hello.
So one thing I keep noticing, and I actually just read a little bit about, if you don't mind talking about it a little bit, it looks like there still is an active Fifth Street gym, but from what I understand, it has no connection to Angelo or you. Is that correct?
100%. It has nothing to do with Angelo's family, or myself. Um, they lost that privilege by not paying payments and lying to Angelo and his family.
If you don't mind, what exactly transpired?
Well, we kind of didn't realize that the whole time. They didn't have the money that they said they had. They were constantly bringing in investors. They weren't paying rent at the facility where we had, and just weren't living up to the payments, the obligations that they were supposed to pay Angelo, from clothing, gym memberships, the usual that was in the contract. And then once Angelo passed away, that was the opportunity when they thought that they were just going to kind of push me out and kind of take everything for themselves. To be perfectly clear, they go online and they tell everybody that Angelo was their mentor and they worked with Angelo. They never worked with Angelo. Their end of it was financial, and that was about it, which they did not hold up to um, their end of the bargain, and that's eventually why Angelo's family, Jimmy Dundee, said, "Forget it, no more." Just kind of over it. And then the last straw was when they tried to push me out by getting the trademark, but we had already had the trademark. And I remember the day they found out that they had the trademark. Dino was like nearly in tears, and he was like, "I just need to have it in my name for the day. Can you put the trademark in my name for the day?" And I'm just like, "Absolutely not. Like, you guys, it's a licensing agreement. You don't get to have, use of the trademark. Any way you're going to make money through Fifth Street is to get paid to Angelo, and his son Jimmy and daughter Terry,
Of course.
which they never did. They claim that they never signed the contracts. Angelo's son Jimmy has the contract signed. We had a lawyer, Joyce Brown, that went up to Chicago to have Tom sign it. I have all the emails. They claim that I was never a partner in the gym. Um, I have all the emails from them, their attorney for the gym. So it was just basically them trying to push me out. The way I found out was, uh, I this part is definitely luck. this
Yeah.
wasn't this wasn't the hard work and opportunity meeting. I just happened to be in the gym one day and we got an eviction notice, that we were going to lose the space in 7 days, and I had no idea. Nobody said anything to me, but I had heard rumblings down in Miami Beach that they had been looking for new spaces, dropping my client's name, saying this one's going to be there, that one's going to be there.
Yeah.
And then a couple of their fighters were kind of talking to people that I knew and told them that once they moved, they were going to kick me out of the gym and take all the equipment. And I was just by luck found out that week that we were getting kicked out and they possibly had a new location, which they didn't tell me about because I was supposed to be their partner. And then I just got all my paperwork for all the equipment that was given to me and Angelo and all my personal stuff, all the pictures, and I just went in there one night with the police and took my stuff out of there. They tried to make it look like I stole everything, but only thing I took was stuff that belonged to myself and the Dundee family, which includes Angelo, Jimmy, and Terry, and just left. But they try to make it look like I stole everything and all the nonsense. Put all these press releases out, which were all lies. Which eventually the police cleared me, and that was it. So we separated. I went my way, they went their way. They still claim that they have the Fifth Street gym and it was passed down, and it wasn't. They basically tried to steal it, and they don't have any of Angelo's uh, permission from the family, or his way of living, which is don't lie. Those guys do nothing but lie on a constant basis. That they worked with Angelo. Their version of working with Angelo as trainers is Angelo coming in there for a week and watching him do stuff, and then they go and tell people that, oh, we worked with Angelo for years, which was all bullshit. I remember Dino used to go around telling people that he was the bodyguard for Robert De Niro, or I don't know, some other people, and meanwhile it was Robert De Niro came into a nightclub and Dino was working security. And that was his version of that's how they work with people. But they have nothing to do with the original Fifth Street. They could call it Fifth Street, but they both know that they have nothing to do with the original Fifth Street gym.
That's. I'm pissed off for you, man, because I can't imagine after dedicating so much of your life to someone who you were so closely connected to, and you being probably the one true protege that he had at that time.
Yeah.
For someone to take that title, that's a title and a bond that's earned, and to lie about it is pretty damn shitty.
Oh, it's shitty, but I believe in karma, and those guys both know they could live their whole lives are lies, saying that they never signed an agreement. Like I'm sure that really that Angelo's family is just going to say, okay, you guys could use the name for free, and you've never really dealt with Angelo, and we're just going to give it to you guys. The deal was made because I was involved, and we thought that we could trust them. But I remember the first night we had it was the grand opening of the gym, and Angelo turns to me. He goes, "I think we messed up." He's like, "These guys are meteor hogs. They just want to get all the publicity," and that's when we kind of saw everything was falling apart. Like they borrowed money from, I can't remember the guy's name, but they borrowed money to have Muhammad flown in because Muhammad wanted to come, but then they claimed that you know the only reason why the whole gym thing was put together was because of Tom and Dino, and it's not the only thing that they were going to supposed to do was bring money, which they didn't have. Because if they did have it, we wouldn't have gotten the eviction notice.
Absolutely.
And go back to the eviction notices. Before they give you a 7-day, you're supposed to get a 30-day, and somebody's supposed to sign for it. So they knew that we were getting evicted, but they didn't tell myself or the family. And I just happened to be in the gym at that day when the police came in with the eviction notice. And then when I confronted them, they're like, "No, no, we're taking care of it." And they never took care of it, and they wound up losing the space.
You know what's a bummer though is that's a lie that's being perpetuated because they're still open today, and there's still people
Yeah,
going in there under the false pretense of like this is a group of guys that are they were tightly connected to Angelo, and if you want that experience, this is it, and it's not true.
yeah,
It's not
yeah. And
true.
they've never worked with Angelo in a corner. Like I said, Angelo would come in there from time to time just because it was contractual obligations, which Angelo did fulfill, and they still didn't pay him. They have nothing to do with Angelo. They've never worked under him. And I want that to be out there that they're liars. They're liars that they didn't sign contracts. I have all the emails stating that they signed, and if they didn't sign, then they're liars anyway because then they lied to me, and they lied to Angelo's family. So either way, they're liars, and it's they like I said they could use the name, but it's in my heart and the people that know it's not the Fifth Street Gym, and they're just two clowns that live a life of lies.
I'm glad that you said it because if no one says it, I don't know. I tend to think liars get away with it until someone steps up and goes, no, 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 that's not the case. Now, and that being said, there will be people to say, maybe Matt's sour grapes or maybe this or that, but the truth comes out. But it
Yeah,
comes out when people say it.
yeah. It's not sour grapes when you have that article that Jimmy Dundee put out, and it basically tells them that you guys don't have the right to use this name, like, and they still use it. I look at them and I just laugh. Like I actually, in a way, I feel bad because they just every time they say they work with Angelo or they post something and this is the Angelo Dundee workout, they're lying to themselves. It's a lie. So in order to live that life, it's pretty sad.
Absolutely. Let
Yeah.
me ask you this then, on a more maybe uplifting or potentially positive note.
Yep.
Being that there's one guy, who's really truly trained to in the Angelo Dundee way and workout, what are we talked about this a little bit before, but what are the odds you come back? And I'm not saying, I get it, that's a workload, that's a
Yeah.
whole commitment for like 8-week training camps and stuff, but what are the odds you come back and
It's
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 one
it's
more
it's
fighter?
it's yeah, no, it's kind of been in the works. To be honest, Matt Damon and I have been planning on opening up a gym, and it's just been we literally had a space in Brooklyn, and the week before we were going to close is when all of those floods hit. This was like 2 years ago, I think,
Yeah.
and the building that we were supposed to buy flooded. So we wound up we didn't get it. Like, and trust me, I was upset. Matt was upset. Everybody was upset. But I was like, "Hey, I'm glad it flooded before we closed on the building because then we would have bought something that we would have spent all this money on."
Yeah.
So it didn't work out. But I'm actively looking for a location, and I'm excited to do it. And then I can if I have a gym, then I could have both workloads. That's the problem now is not having a facility. The majority of my clients are all have gyms at their homes, so I just kind of I do that, and then I'll go away for movies. Like last year was nuts. Like I was literally gone for 9 months last year, and then it's just tough. But once I get a gym, we'll be back in full swing. But it's always a good possibility, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a positive note. And yeah, man, super stoked about getting back into it and still doing the movies and do both. And then what I'd really like to do is find an understudy to work under me, and I can teach them the stuff that I learned and kind of pass the knowledge down to somebody that loves boxing. So I'm excited for it. Yep.
I love hearing that. I think that's the most important thing. You know, if you're a boxing purist, you want to see the best trainers learn from the best trainers. It's just a fact, you know. And you notice that all the great trainers followed the previous generations very closely. When the time comes where you have a bucket boy, you know, the next mat to be the
Yeah.
mat for you, you know, I think that's a very special moment, because that's a moment when you start making a generational thing where the next generation will have a great teacher. That's I love to hear that.
Yeah. And I think that that's the problem with boxing now. Or I mean, I think it's starting to turn a little bit. Is before, like, all of these trainers, like, they worked with each other and they taught each other. Like, everybody was happy just to have, like, everybody's getting a paycheck. We could work together and, like, learn. Like, all those guys. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze.
Okay.
That Angelo worked under, he was always learning. And now it's like all these closed door sessions. And I'm just like, okay, what are you hiding? There's nothing that's going to be hidden that
Yeah.
we can't see on previous fight tapes. Like, we know your weaknesses. We know what you're going to be working on. We know what our weaknesses, what we're going to be working on. Like, let the public, like, if you look at the old Fifth Street gym, there would be signs out in front of the gym that say, okay, here's a training schedule. If you guys want to come in and watch these guys train today. And that's how you build a fan base, and they're not doing that anymore. Like, a lot of the gyms are just kind of closed when fighters come in, which I think is a massive, big mistake, because then people don't love it. You know, you get think about it, everybody coming in from the neighborhood and watching this fighter grow up as a kid and watching him train and then become, or her becoming, world champion. I think is something that needs to be done more often.
Absolutely. Well, in boxing, because they don't box, they don't fight that much. They have to have some
Yeah,
exposure to the fans. So, you know, fighting once or twice a
yeah,
year,
yeah,
you're not going to really build anything. But if you can at least open up your gyms to it, then people can feel more connected. I mean, they do it in every other sport. They do it in every other sport. You can watch the training camps and sort of be a part of it.
yeah,
Um,
yep,
no, that'd be cool. Honestly, California is a great place. I mean, I don't know all the logistics, but California is a great place to have a gym too. I mean, there's so many
oh,
fighters coming up all the time.
it's great, man. I want to tell you a quick story, because we were talking about trainers learning from each other.
Yeah.
I never realized on how close Emmanuel Stewart and Angelo were. So when I went up to see Angelo, Emmanuel was training. Oh God, I see his name. Oh my God, I'm having a blank now. Puerto Rican fighter, bald. Margarito cheated with the raps. Oh my God, what
Oh,
is wrong with me? Um,
say it
Miguel
again.
Cotto.
Oh, Kodo, yeah.
It was Miguel Cotto. Yeah, I don't know why I just blanked on that
I
one.
did too. Yeah, no, yeah.
But I meet Emmanuel, and first thing Emmanuel says to me, he goes, I got drunk twice in my life, and it was with this guy, and he points to Angelo. And he goes on to tell me the story of, I think they were fighting in the Bahamas, and it might have, I think, wasn't the Trevor Berbick fight in the Bahamas when Muhammad fought him.
I might have. I mean, I
I
believe
think
Trevor
it was in the
Burbick was
Bahamas,
from.
but it
Yeah.
was a fight there. Yeah, and the Tommy Hearns was on the undercard, and Tommy got a bad cut across the head, and I think it needed something like 100 stitches. So Emmanuel calls up Angelo and says, "Hey, could we use?" Because Muhammad always traveled with a plastic surgeon just in case he got cut and he needed to fix it. So he goes, "Can we use your plastic surgeon?" And he goes, "Yeah, come to the hotel room." So they go to the hotel room, and there's Tommy, and Angelo pulls out a fifth of whiskey and says, "We don't have anything to like a number, and you're going to need a number because all of the stuff that Emmanuel used for the cut was stuck up in there, so they had to scrape it all out."
Yeah.
And Tommy goes, "No, I don't drink." And they're like, "Dude, it's going to be painful." And so they take like a pillowcase out. They cut the eye open so
Yeah.
you could see where just the eye was, like, and Well, Tommy Hearns is screaming bloody murder because they're scraping all the stuff out. Angelo and Emmanuel decide to drink the fifth of whiskey. And so these two are getting bombed. And meanwhile, poor Tommy was
Hundred
screaming
stitches
for
left.
his life. And these two guys, and
Jeez,
he goes, yeah, he goes, that was the one time. And I forget the other time because that story was just so funny. I could not stop laughing.
that's so fun. Yeah, you know, something just popped in my head. You were saying how the trainers used to be closer and they used to be cooler. There was a story, I forgot who the trainer was, but Angelo had brought another trainer with him and they were fighting each other, but the night before the fight they went out for drinks together. He took him, I forgot who the
Um,
trainer was, but there was a story behind it where I think Angelo, they were in it was some town where it might have been like one of those casino towns where it sticks all around and then, you know, little casino resort, yada yada. He took him all the way into the sticks and the other trainer's like, I'm getting kidnapped, this is it. Like he's got it out for me. And then it just turned out they went to some place where, you know, they had girls and drinks and stuff like that. I can't remember who it was. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
look it back up.
yeah. And then I found this while we were waiting to get back online.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's the bucket boy.
that's it. That's the Bucket Boy.
That
One of
is
the Bucket
awesome.
Boy corner jackets. Yeah.
I feel like there's some humility built into that, where it's like you had to grow humility and wear
Oh,
what.
that's my badge of honor.
Yeah, but you know what I
They,
mean, right? Yeah, you got to pay your
yeah,
dues.
that's my badge of honor. That's what I mean. It's like it's humility, but it's not like I was proud to wear that thing. I
Yeah,
was like some people are like, oh, I got to wear the Bucket Boy. It's gonna be so embarrassed. I was like, chest out, head up, like
yeah.
yeah, I made it. Like yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. So Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I was talking to my daughter. She's 13. She's about to be 14. So I was like, hey, you know, this guy I'm going to talk to. He's talked to a lot of the celebrities you might know and you might like. And I mentioned Sydney, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I know her, and
Yeah.
she was in such and such and this and that." And she goes, and she started doing her research, and she read something that she might be fighting. And so, is that a thing? And if so, are you going to be the guy to work with her if that happens, or
Yeah, we've talked about it. She's definitely. Let me tell you something. Sydney did MMA training for years. I think 12 to 19 with Ronda Rousey's people, and she can punch. Like she's very dedicated. Remember, she's not from the city. She's from the country. So like, you got to be tough, man. Like her family owned a farm out there. You know, she showed me they have like a 1966 Chevy pickup truck that's where she learned how to drive stick. So she's a tomboy, man. She's not
yeah,
like as beautiful as she is. She's not like like she's not afraid to get her hands dirty.
it's a tough chick.
Um, yeah, she's tough, man. And she got a concussion on the movie. She broke a girl's nose, gave out two concussions. Like those girls were really hitting, and she loved every. She was constantly trying to get me to spar with her, and I'm like, man, I'd love to spar with you, but like we need to make a movie. Like if you get hurt, like
Could you imagine?
we can't finish the movie. And like she's gung ho, so I would love to do it because I think she has a talent. Start it. And I'm definitely like obviously not a professional fight. You need to work up to that, but definitely amateur. Like I think she would be good at it, and she's talented, man. If you go to watch the movie Christie, you'll see the fight scenes. Like I'd say 99% of those fight scenes are her. Because I remember the girl, Sarah Irvin, that was her double for stunts, was upset because she really didn't get to do too much in the movie. And meanwhile, poor girl Sarah's taken a lot of beatings during the shooting, like behind the scenes when we're getting ready with the other stunt girls to
Yeah.
stunt women to do. She's like the one that's taking all the punches,
Oh,
but she
jeez.
didn't get to give out any in the film. But yeah, man, I'd love for Sydney to have at least one fight. Yeah, it'd be great.
That honestly, so given your two careers and where they are, that would be like kind of a good way to fuse them both. You know, you train
Yeah,
fighters.
that's what I was thinking, man. I was like, I even told Sydney, I'm like, man, I said, I've been wanting to get back in. This would be the perfect way to just kind of tiptoe back in and sneak in. So yeah, that or like I said, work a corner. But it would be great for her to fight because I think people look at Sydney as like a. I mean, I know they do. They look at her as a sex symbol and one of those, But she's tough, man. She, slalom water skis, learned how to
Yeah.
drive on a '66 Chevy pickup truck. Like she works on her own cars. She has I think she has a YouTube channel where she works on Broncos and Mustangs. Yeah, man, she's a tomboy, man. She's cool.
That's honestly, as a girl dad, that would be awesome. A girl like that who's able to advocate for herself, but also to go out there and like kick some ass. Like
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
role model right there, man. That's I
yeah,
like
man.
that.
She hits hard. When we were filming, I was teaching her how to throw a right hook over the top of a jab, like when they throw the lazy jab, you just come over and. So I'm teaching. I said, "All right, we'll start doing it." And then I said, and she had the headgear on, so I don't think she heard me say like when to go. So I just go like get into my stance, and I was just like just moved a little bit, and all of a sudden the right hook comes over, and I mean she went full blast, and I was like, oh my god, like she like I saw stars for a second,
Yeah.
and she's right away. She's like, oh my god, everybody in the gym is laughing. And I'm laughing, and she's like, "I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it." So I was like, I joke with her. I'm like, "You really meant to hit me."
Jeez
But
Louise.
yeah, yeah, she's got a good right hook, man. She's got a great left hook. Yeah, she's great, man.
Hell yeah, that'd be cool if you guys could do it on. It'd be wild if you guys could do it under the rate. You know what I mean? She can get some amateur fights without all the attention, making it a huge thing. Just go into some of these like a park
Well,
district fight and just fight with
well,
no
we,
one knowing. That'd be
yeah,
crazy.
we were gonna do it under because Christy has a promotional company, Christy Martin. So we were gonna do it under hers, and she also throws amateur shows. So we were gonna do it under Christy Martin Promotions. Yeah, man, it's if when she's ready, you know what it is too is we were texting about the other day, and I said, man, I said, look, I said, I know you can do it. I don't have a doubt. I said, but you just got to make sure that your schedule allows it because boxing isn't a sport where you could go in. It's not tennis. You're not, you know, this is, to me, I always said this is the one sport that really is life and death. And even in the amateurs, there's a few amateur fighters that have unfortunately passed away. And like, I wouldn't want that to happen to Sydney. And then also too is like at the end of the day, like your face is your moneymaker, like in that business, and like that's something that Matt and I always joke around about. And she's like, just don't hit the moneymaker. Hit me anyplace else. Just don't hit the moneymaker. And I get it. At the end of the day, that's their bread and butter. But for her to have an amateur fight with headgear and all that stuff, or without, if she chooses, which I'm sure she doesn't mind. I think she would do great at it because she's athletic, very athletic.
That would be, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be so cool. But I also, honestly, I think it's bad. You get your first fights, when I boxed amateur years and years and years ago, and I remember in the beginning, I actually didn't tell my family. I didn't want them to come because I was so nervous. I was nervous enough
Yeah.
just doing it. Then to have them
Yeah.
there watching, I was like, no, thank
Well,
you.
that's how Angelo got his last name. One of his oldest brothers used to fight, and a lot of people don't realize this that Angelo's real last name is not Dundee. His real last name is Marina, and they changed it so the parents wouldn't find out that they were involved in boxing.
Get out of here! No way.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, his brother was it Chris, the manager?
Yeah, Chris was the manager and the original owner of Fifth Street.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I did read his book, but it's been years. So it's as you're
Yeah.
saying it pops back in. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, Angelo lived in Chris's office in the gym for a while, like when he was younger, when he first started, because Angelo was an airman in the army, and they called them scavengers. Like during World War II, he would go in. I think it was World War II. He would go in and pick up all the broken parts for the airplanes, and then they would use those for the ones that needed to get fixed.
Get out of here.
So he was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm gonna get killed. And he's go, okay, come to Stillman's, and then that's how he started the whole Bucket Boy stuff.
Wow. It's full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yep.
That's crazy. Well, Matt, I appreciate you a ton, man. This has been just an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry it's taken so long. I know we've been talking, and like now you have my number. I don't know why we didn't exchange numbers before, but I'm just not on Facebook too much. But now you have my number. I'd love to do this again. There's so much more to touch upon on
Yeah.
boxing. So if you ever have an empty slot, I would humbly request that you give me a call, and would love to talk more about boxing.
Yes, sir.
It's great,
Anytime.
and thanks for being like a great ambassador to boxing and doing these interviews and getting all of us guys to come on and talk about it. And man, it's guys like you that keep the sport alive. And just thanks again, and another apology again for taking so long to get this done.
Hey, better late than never. No, I understand. You're a busy guy. I didn't take it personal at all. We got it done. I'm glad we can do it again. But thank you, man, for everything. You're the man.
Yeah. And Queens for life, no Hollywood here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks,
All
man.
right. Have a good one.
You
Bye.
too.